Hey, let's talk more about recording in Reaper. I want to re-go over a couple of things and then talk about a couple of new things to you all. Let me get this all set up here. So, Reaper, you know this one. You can see I've already gone ahead and saved up a session here so that we got everything going. And as a reminder, if we're going to be recording directly into Reaper, we need to create a blank, empty audio track. And to do that, we can go to track, insert new track. We can hit Command T, Control T, Mac versus PC, or we can double click in the TCP or down in the mixer. So I'm going to double click in the TCP, and we get a new track that pulls up. I'm immediately going to relabel this track as mic test 1. Couple of other things. In Reaper, as a reminder, you can pretty much rearrange the size and position of everything in there. So we can make our TCP wider or more narrow. We can also make individual tracks within our TCP arrangement view taller or more shallow. What I want you to do is I want you to grab the bottom of your track so that we can see two input things. This in right here and this input right here. Great. And you'll also want to do one other thing. Oops, sorry, my computer's got that spinning ball death. Great. Now, down in our mixer, I want you to actually grab your mixer window. If we grab that tab, we can make it snap to the left here. And just one more quick thing. Down in the very bottom, there's a little eye, which is an info and gives us some options about what all we can do. And I'm going to select that eye. And I'm going to unselect or deselect show multiple rows of tracks when size permits. And what this is going to do is essentially force this track to stay tall no matter what. And now we can see everything going on here. Now, next thing we need to check, and you always should check this whenever you're trying to record audio, is what is our input and output device for the program. So I'm going to open up preferences, and we can go file preferences right there, or command comma and pull those up. I'm going to go over 3 different ways of recording audio directly into Reaper. The first one we talked about way back originally is using our built-in microphone. If I select that built-in mic, ignore the output device. This is set right now to an inter-device routing interface, which allows me to send audio from Reaper over to OBS, where I'm recording these demo videos. So I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to close out of this. Now, in Reaper, we want to record arm our track. And to do that, we're going to press what looks like a record button. Depending on the DAW you're in, this could be different. But oftentimes it's some sort of red button typically that allows you to put the track into record arm. And notice when I press this, it's going to go from a dark red to a bright red. Also, once it's in record arm mode, we should be able to see level coming in to our track in the meter. And this is occurring in both the mixer as well as the TCP. Now, if you weren't getting level, again, you'd want to just double check one more time that you actually have the right input device picked. And then the other thing to check, where I said we wanted to be able to see this thing called input, is if you are selecting a device that has multiple inputs, you might need to select a different mic input channel. I'm going to leave it to 1, and we see that that's coming in. I also talked in a previous video how you could use your phone as a microphone. And to do that, as a reminder, for PC, we've got a tutorial linked that'll show you how to do that for a PC. But for Mac, I'm going to open up something called Audio MIDI Setup.app. Somewhere. There we go. And I'm going to scroll down, and on Music Phone, I'm going to say Enable. And now we see I have a new device called iPhone. Now I'm going to come over to Reaper. I'm going to select my iPhone. I'm going to click Apply. And now on my phone, I'm going to select this Megaphone app, which takes sound from whichever mic I specify. Right now I'm specifying front microphone, and it just copies it through to the output, assuming that you're plugged in either through a headphone jack cable or the digital output to some sort of other device. And now when I talk into my phone, we can see the level coming in. Wonderful. Yo! Okay, I wanted to talk about one other thing I realized first, and then we'll come back to the phone. So I'm going to open back up to built-in microphone. I'm going to apply. And now this is actually on my computer, which is right there, a couple feet away from my head. From a mic distance perspective, obviously that's not optimized and not something you want to be doing. That's a different problem, but we can deal with it at a different day. I'm going to open up system preferences here. And then I'm going to go to audio. And you should be able to do this on a PC or a Mac. There it is. Sorry, my computer is running out of space and is getting slow. I need to fix that today. So the great thing now is when I've got my internal microphone selected, I actually get a mic preamp gain level. And what I want you to notice is that I want to set this so that my levels are not clipping. If it goes red right here, I'm clipping. So if I pull this mic preamp gain level up and I keep talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, eventually we get some clipping. We see that I'm coming in quite hot above digital clipping by at least 5 decibels. That is just too much. What you really want to do is you want to be somewhere closer in the region of 6 decibels or negative 6 dB of headroom. This gives you enough room that if the source that you're recording juices it, adds a little bit extra amplitude, it hopefully is not going to clip, but you're also trying to take advantage of the entire dynamic range by having this amount of headroom. So notice here in Reaper, let's do a different color so it's easier to see. It actually shows me what is the headroom or what is the peak amplitude level that has been occurred so far. And if I click it, it'll reset. And I'm trying to look for about negative 6 dB. So right now as I'm talking, we're getting negative 14, negative 12, negative 9.4. Maybe I can come up just a little bit so that we've got a little bit more, a little less headroom and are trying to take advantage of that full dynamic range. Yeah, come on, come on. Okay, so we're getting there. That's good. Really anywhere between negative 12 and negative 6 dB will be sufficient. So if you have the ability to change that headroom, know that that's how you can set your microphone preamplifier level using your computer so that you're not clipping. Okay, finally, as a final demo, I actually have this microphone right here plugged into an external audio interface. If I select that, hit apply. Sorry, I disappeared on the visual for a second. The camera had the switch off and on for a moment. Notice now that I've still got signal coming in. And it sets to about negative 6 dB from where I've got the internal mic going right now. And that's how we want to leave it. So, however, for the moment, I'm going to actually use this iPhone thing just so we can be using a similar microphone, hopefully. And I do not believe that for iPhone input, I have the ability to change. I do not have the ability to change the input, so that's fine. Great. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about recording now. I'm in recording armed mode. I'm going to hit the home button on my keyboard, and that brings us back to the 0 time marker in Reaper. And down below in what's called the transport, which hopefully you can see right at the bottom of this video, the transport is these play button, left, right button, stop button, pause button, repeat, and an actual record button. And to start recording, we need to hit either Command R on Mac, Control R on Windows, or physically press the record button with our mouse. And when I do this, it will start recording. I'm now recording into Reaper, and you can see that my voice is being recorded through the phone. If I pull the phone further away from my mouth, these amplitude peaks are going to get much softer. they get softer and softer and softer and softer. And as I get the microphone closer to my mouth again, they're going to get louder and louder and louder and louder until finally I'm peaking because I got it too loud or too close to my voice. Wonderful. Now, if I wanted to, we could go back and we could listen to that. Hold on 1 second. Now let's try it again. There we go. Louder and louder and louder and louder until finally. Great. So you can hear that coming in. Now, I really should be using headphones. So let's do that. And the reason I should be using headphones is because clearly I have some feedback going by coming out of my speakers and going directly into a microphone. So I've turned my speakers off, and now I can hear myself on my headphones. And because we are in record monitoring mode, it plays back automatically what it's hearing in the microphone to the output device so that you can preview what's going on there. And I wanted to show you a couple different ways of dealing with some of this in Reaper. If I right click this speaker here or control click it, sorry, my headphone cable is on the mouse and causing problems. So there are a number of options here. There's monitor input, and there's monitor input tape auto style and monitor track media when recording. If I go to monitor input, if I, sorry, trying to think of too many microphones right now, and I'm getting confused where I'm at. Okay, sorry. If this is white, then it monitors directly back through the audio, and you can hear it in your headphones. If this is red, it will come closer to my mouth again. They're going to get louder and louder and louder and louder. It plays back media if there's media there, or it plays back the microphone if there's no media there or not recording. If it's just an empty speaker, then nothing gets previewed back and we cannot preview our audio. So again, now you should hear two of me. You should still hear two of me. You should only hear one of me plus the pre-recorded. And now you should only hear one of me coming in here. Hopefully that makes sense. But if you're in a situation where you're trying to record different things, it's important to know how those different options work. Wonderful. Next, let's talk about some of the different recording modes. So options. I want to go recording mode. So we've talked previously, there's two different types of recording for overlapping existing media options. The first one is splits existing items and creates new takes. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to actually delete all of this, and I'm going to work from a text that I found online, which is similar to the assignment that I'm asking you to do this week. And that is right here. I'm on page 61, but what I'm found is just on the Internet Archive, and it is the president's report for the University of Montana from when the university was open. So we're going to go back to page 61, which is the president's address. And I'm going to move this out of the way so I can see it, and then going to clear my screen. And let's say I wanted to recite this back. So I'm going to actually go into recording mode in just a second and talk into my microphone. Address of President Oscar J. Craig. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Education, ladies and gentlemen. On the first day of July, I reached your beautiful university city, received the kind greetings of the Board of Trustees and the people, and at once entered on the duties of that office now formally and publicly assumed. These intervening weeks have been weeks of unremitting labor, planning the course of study, arranging the organization of the university, procuring material supplies, getting the building in order, and projecting the university and its proposed work before our people of the Commonwealth of Montana. I say our people. Sorry. So great. And I've got a couple non responsive applications. That's awesome. Let's go back now and actually hear what we did. Address of President Oscar J. Craig. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Education, ladies and gentlemen. On the first day of July, I reached your beautiful university city, received the kind greetings of the Board of Trustees and the people, and at once entered on the duties of that office now formally and publicly assumed. These intervening weeks have been weeks of unremitting labor. So let's say I decided. Oops, sorry, I'm going to turn that off. There's no need for you to hear previews of me, but you'll want to hear previews of yourself, obviously. Let's say I didn't like the way that I said unremitting labor. I'm going to turn snapping off so we can be more. And at once entered on the duties of that office now formally and publicly assumed. These intervening weeks have been weeks of. Great. So let's say I knew I wanted to redo right here where it picks up these intervening weeks. Now, what I'm going to do is there's a couple of ways we can go about this. The first is I can start playing one statement beforehand, and then when I'm ready to punch in, I'll hit the record button, allowing me to start recording again, and we'll see how that changes. So again, you're going to hear what's going on, and then you'll hear me start to talk when I hit the punch button. And at once entered on the duties of that office now formally and publicly assumed. These intervening weeks have been weeks of unremitting labor, planning the course of study, arranging the organization of the university, procuring material supplies, getting the building in order, and projecting the university and its proposed work before our people of the Commonwealth of Montana. And now what you'll see is that we actually have two lanes here of different audio takes. And if we go back and listen to these, publicly assumed. These intervening weeks have been weeks of unremitting labor, planning the course of study, arranging the organization. The one that is highlighted is the one that's active. So if I select the other one, arranging the organization assumed. These intervening weeks have been weeks of unremitting. And I can switch back and forth between them to preview which one I like better. Assumed. These intervening weeks have been weeks of unremitting labor, planning the course of study, arranging the organization of the university, procuring material supplies, getting the building in order, and great. So let's say I know I like the bottom one better. That's wonderful. I'll then scoot over and clean it up a little bit. And if we zoom in, we'll see that there's just the slightest fade out and fade in. We may want to make those just slightly longer. Now, if I reduce those fade outs, so let's undo that here. What we really want is a crossfade, where we take one piece of audio and then we crossfade it with the other so that it sounds seamless in its presentation. So I'll take these fade outs. So if I put my cursor really close to the edge, you'll notice it turns into a fade button. I'll come all the way, and I'll do the same thing with this one. And then I'm going to set my mouse so that it's at the left edge of that second clip and has a single bracket with double arrows, and I'll draw left, and you'll notice that I'll start to get a crossfade. And now if we go back and listen to this, these intervening, and it's not quite the right spot, but let's scoot it over here. So then we'll pull this over. These, and we'll actually then move all of this over. And the whole goal is to clean it up so that it sounds natural. These intervening assumed. These intervening weeks have wonderful. Oh, wrong button. Assumed. These intervening weeks. Great, and now we can zoom out And if I really wanted to, I can right click. And I can select between the two takes that way as well. The important thing here is that as I record, let's say I'm
the course of study, arranging the
and I hit
organization
punch
of
in
the
again,
university.
then I can continue to add another take. And then when I hit stop, notice we now have 3 take options to choose between.
Then I can continue to add another take, and then arranging the organization of the university. Then I can continue to add another take, and then when I hit setting the university.
So this take view essentially creates a folder or hierarchy of takes that you can then choose between. This may not always be right for the situation you're working on. And instead, you may want to go into an older method, which is called tape method. So let's assume that's what we want to do. So we're going to go options, new recording that overlaps existing media, trims existing items behind new recording, tape mode. So let's do that. We'll drag this back out so we have it all. And we'll start playing back. Sorry.
Have been weeks of unremitting labor planning the course of study.
And I'll punch in, and then we have this take going on top of the other take, and then I'll unpunch.
Projecting the universe.
Now notice we don't have multiple takes. Instead, we just have this single audio file that has replaced the other. Take, and then I'm going to turn lock to active take, so we can't go off.
These intervening weeks have been weeks of unremitting labor planning the course of study.
And I'll punch in, and then we have this take going on top of the other take, and then I'll
order and projecting.
You can choose which method is right for you. Previously, this one was a little bit more accessible, perhaps, this tape style where we replace things. But the take method, if you are dealing with complex media, such as a script, can be really useful in terms of trying out different types of things and seeing which one sounds the best. The other thing I want to be aware of, you to be aware of, is the different types of recording modes. So if I right click on the record armed button, we have, if I right click down here on the record button, we have record mode normal, record mode time selection auto punch. Record mode normal, whenever you hit record, we're going to start recording immediately. And then it overlaps or it deletes with whatever we've got. Let's just do it with everything here. We'll go back home. And so again, if I hit record, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Education, let's say we want to start that over, and we'll go record again. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Education, and ladies and gentlemen, on the first day of July, I reached your beautiful university city, received the kind greetings of the Board of Trustees and the people, and at once entered on the duties of that office, now formally and publicly assumed. So we've recorded that. Now, let's assume right here.
Entered on the duties of that office, now formally and publicly assumed. Entered on the duties of...
Let's say I don't like the way that I say entered on the duties. It's too much, and I just want a little bit less. I could, as I've shown you before, hit the play button.
Receive the kind greetings of the Board of Trustees and the people, and at once...
Entered upon the duties of that office, and then we'll have the new take.
Entered upon the duties of...
And I could move that over, of course, so that it sounds better, but let's just delete it. Because the point of what I want to show you is that if I right-click on record and I hit record mode time selection auto punch, I don't have to try and hit the record button when I want to actually punch in. Instead, I can select exactly what I want to. And now I'll put my playhead wherever I want. And when I hit the record button, notice it's turned to a different type of record button. And notice when I hit record, it's not going to start recording until we get to this point here.
Receive the kind greetings of the Board of Trustees and the people, and at once
entered into the beauty of something. I forgot what I'm reading.
Assumed.
It assumes your talent or whatever you're recording knows what's going on. But notice that it automatically punched in at the moment of selection. So that is a nice, another additional way of working that can be particularly useful. All right. Let's say that you also want to add another track of audio, some sort of recorded audio above, underneath this. You're going to mix it essentially. This is multiple tracking session. We're going to unarm this first track and we're going to create another track. I'm going to label it Mic Test 2. And hopefully you're going to do something a little bit more intelligent than that. We'll draw it down so we can see more. And then I'll put it in record mode, and I'm going to take it off of preview mode, so that it's not feeding back right now in an awkward way.
Receive the kind greeting.
Now, if I wanted to record, I'll hit record. We'll take this off, and I'll actually go back to record mode normal. We'll go home. We'll hit record.
Again. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Education, and ladies and gentlemen. On the first day of July, I reached your beautiful university city.
It is a
Received
beautiful
the kind
university
greetings of
city.
the Board of Trustees
I
and
love
the people,
Missoula.
and at once
This is as
entered
though
into the
I'm having a
beauty
second
of something
conversation
I've been
underneath. Okay, so we've got nonsense, but it's okay. We've got two things that you're able to listen back in your headphones what's going on, and then record over the
reached
other.
your beautiful university city.
It is a
Received
beautiful
the kind
university
greetings of
city.
the Board of Trustees
I
and
love
the people,
Missoula.
and at once
This is as
entered
though
into the
I'm having a
beauty
second
of something
conversation
I've
under.
publicly assumed. Reached your beautiful.
Great. So those are a number of different recording methods that are available to you and allow you to determine how best to record things. What I want you to do, we'll get into it in a minute. At any rate, if you got any questions, please reach out.